Hello everybody and welcome back. I've been getting a lot of requests from people asking me over and over again, hey Ted, how do you go about hiding seams, or what do you do to fill in the gaps, or what do you do to make an invisible seam? And basically, I'm going to walk you through it right now, right here on the Old Ted channel. You'll need three essential things to make a good seam when making your costume parts. Number one, a good clean cut. Number two, applying the glue. And number three, line them up while you stick them together. So there's more details involved, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through and explain the details as we go through it. The foam part of choice is going to be a shoulder piece I have made. I got my pattern already drawn on here. This is what we're going to use to make a good seam. So number one, I have my knife and my sharpener. So I do a little WD-40 on my Crenshaw sharpener, and if you guys want to know where I get this, I have a link for it just below this page. And also you can check out my tools. If you have first time guys watching this, you can also check out my tools of the trade video. That's a good point to check out. So now what we're doing, what I like to do is cutting. When we cut the pieces, I always like to have the tip touch the table. I like to let the blade do the work. For example, so I start on the table like so. Follow my line and go nice and slow. And also when you're cutting, to keep your blade upright so you do not turn, so keep the edge at a 90-degree angle. See, nice and slow. There, voila. Now I'm going to show you, see that edge? It's nice and clean. That's a 90-degree angle, nice and flat and clean. All right, now that I have the parts, both of them are cut. Before I glue these guys together, we step on to the next step of glue, I like to preheat my pieces. So we're going to have them warm these up, get the heat gun out, and kind of pre-curl these foam pieces. All right, there they are. They're all preheated and ready to go. I'm getting ready for my glue. Now this is the most crucial part. It's using, I have my glue jar right here. And this is full of, like people always ask me, what's my glue of choice? It's Barge Cement. Now what Barge Cement is, the particular kind of glue that is, it's a contact adhesive. And there's when applying it to your foam, what I like to do is less is more when you're using something like contact adhesive. And the glue is also described in its name. It's a contact adhesive. So what it is, you don't just glue it, tape it together, and hope for it to dry. It sticks together when you apply the two surfaces together. Thus the name, contact adhesive. So what I like to do is brush it on. Then I cut some pieces of foam scrap like this. You can see right here. And I like to just go over it, make it nice and flat. Therefore I know I'm getting every spot of that foam. If you look closely, you get every part of the exposing raw foam. And I push it down to it's really thin. Just like that. And when you do that, you'll get a little excess on the side. It's fine, just wipe it up with the foam. But you want to make sure you get that on nice and even. No thick spots, just nice and thin. All right. Okay, now both these parts have been coated. This is my first coat. Now, just for extra precaution, I got this thin coat on, I cup it. It's kind of dry, so what I do now is I apply a second coat. What this does is that this guarantees any other thin spots, and also too, foam has a tendency to suck up that first coat of glue you put on there. So I want to make sure I get a really good seal on this. I definitely put a second coat on. And that just guarantees that you're gonna, when the glue sticks to it, it's gonna have a good glue contact, because sometimes that first coat just gets soaking in by the foam. So once again, when it's semi-dry, I go back in and put my second coat on, doing the same process. Taking a piece of foam and going really thin and even. Make sure I get all those edges. Now you have the glue on her, you can speed the process up by using a hair dryer. But what I like to use sometimes is if you don't have heat, you can do the option of switching the heat off your hair dryer and just use air. That works well too. But mine just says heat only, so I'm going to have to make sure I do it. But I don't like to get too hot. I like just to kind of keep it at a distance, so it just gives a nice even dry to it. Okay, now it's dry. What I'd like to show you too, if you look at the glue, it's kind of semi-glossy, but But also when you touch it, it's not wet, it doesn't come off on your finger, and it's just tacky enough, but you still feel the tack, now you're good to go. So, once again, here's the crucial part. Making your seams line up, you gotta make sure you get them lined up first. So what I like to do is line them up like so. Top edge, flush. My registration marks, and I like to run my finger along it to make sure they're lined up. And you see it, and it's nice and flush. Once again, I like to use my fingers kind of like a dam or a barometer to stop it. Keep going slowly, pushing, see? Making contact. But still keeping it, because you gotta make sure these parts line up flush. That minimizes your work to go back and sand and all that kind of stuff. Like so, there. As again, very slowly lining up. No rush, keeping going. Contact, there we go. Now what I like to do, now I get on there, I take my finger and kind of push on the seam. Kind of push on itself to make sure it sticks really well. Alright, that's the first part. There it is, see? Nice and clean line. Granted, there's going to be a little bit of a seam here. So what I like to do, alright, so 120, now let's go to 320. I like it too when I'm sanding too. I don't want to work the whole area. I just like to work the seam. And the sanding stick comes in really handy for that. You just doing the edge. Going back and forth just to get all that high, get the high stuff off of it. All right. Now, at 320, and now, I got my cup of water here. 400 grit sandpaper. This is my little final pass on this guy. This will really get rid of all the fuzz and the texture on the foam here. All right, there it is now. It's all dry. I went through with my 400 grit sandpaper and wet sanded all this down, and now it's really smooth. And there'll be a little bit of a fuzz left there. But I look closely, and I can still see a little bit of seams and a little bit of an air bubble over here. So what I like to do the patch with is Kwik Seal. Now this is a caulking compound, and when they call Kwik Seal, they're not kidding. It's because this does dry quickly. But what I like to do is apply very little, because I'm just going to go ahead and just put a little on the seam. So I'm just going to put a little bit on the edge here, like so. Now, I have an old razor blade, and this is what I get to use like this. Therefore, this goes directly to where I want it to go. Less is more. I don't want to use too much of this stuff. I just want to fill in the seam. So, I'm going to just gently go over this guy. And the trick is too, one thing with Kwik Seal too, you cannot go back and sand this. This is a flexible compound. When it dries, it's flexible, but it does not sand. There's other people out there that like to use a particular caulking that they can go back and sand on top of. My philosophy is always trying to make your part as clean as you can. So there's like virtually little work you have to do to it. So just going to do that on just on the hairline seam, just a little bit. So get that all filled in. All right, now that I have my seam sealed up with this, I like to take a cup of water, wet my finger, and just kind of feather the edges, because this residue, just trying to minimize it. Just kind of bring it down a little bit. This stuff goes really good. And the thing is, the reason I call it, you want to do this really quick, because you wait too long on this stuff, it gets gunky, it'll dry up on you. So while it's still relatively wet, I like to take a little bit of a wet finger here and just kind of smooth it out. And it's safe because it's all acrylic based. There you go. To speed up the drying process, a good old hair dryer. All right, now that it's dry, what I like to do, because some of the deeper holes, once you do this stuff shrinks a little bit. So once again, I like to just do one more pass on it. And this is kind of like, because it's going to shrink a little bit in spots. So I just kind of to prevent that from happening, let's put one more coat on. Again, a little wet finger on this guy again, just to smooth the edges on it. Okay, round 2 with the hairdryer. Alright, now this is my second coat with the Kwik seal. Went ahead, got it, now it's dry. I'm going to go ahead and seal the foam. Now, a lot of people are thinking once you sand all this and get it, you go back and heat seal it, and the answer is no, do not, because if you go to put heat back on this, all that work you've done on the seam will just open right back up. There's probably a little weird spots that are not glued or not imperfected. If you put a heat gun to this to seal it, to kind of seal it, it's just going to open things back up. So once you heat seal it and you do all this, that's it. No more heat. So what I do to seal it now, is got my old Mog Podge and a sponge brush here. And I'm definitely going to put tool dip on this, but for the base coat, I want to definitely do a Mog Podge. Because it says I'm not going to hit it with a heat gun to seal it. I still want to seal the foam. Just give it a basic thin coat to close off the foam. So we're just going to do a nice thin coat of Mog Podge. Okay, I got my one thin coat of Mog Podge. Of course, I like to speed it up a little bit with my hairdryer. All right, there it is. The Mog Podge is all nice and dry and sealed up and ready to go. Now my next step is plastic dip. Ta-da! There it is. Look at that. What you're looking at is 4 coats of plastic dip, and if you look, it's almost invisible. You can barely see it. I mean, granted, if you look closely, but it's got a nice sheen to it. And on this particular part, granted, I could have put more parts on it for a shoulder piece, but I didn't want to do that for this particular video because I wanted to show you guys the smoothness and what you can do by with sanding. So I got this guy, and so my next step after this is I'm going to take the Rust-Oleum primer, give it a thin coating of that, and then once that dries, I'm going to go back in with some Montana orange. I think a butter color will be interesting to see what this looks like once it's all painted. All right, so let's do that. And there it is. Ta-da! There's our shoulder piece. As you can see, virtually seamless. Now I always say virtually seamless because it's still kind of there, but for a foam costume, this is pretty darn invisible. This is what I like to do. People keep asking how I hide my seams, and this is the technique I use. And granted, like I said, there would have been more detail on this, but I want to keep this whole thing smooth just to show you guys the concept of how I go about minimizing my seams. Bang! There it is. My smooth shoulder piece. You can see, look at that. Right from here, it looks virtually seamless. I mean, of course, up close I can see it, but on a costume and cosplay, this is perfect. Nice, good, clean seam. So that is my technique I do to make my stuff and my seams virtually seamless. Also, I want to tell you guys, if you are new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe. And also, people who write me and ask me questions on my thread below my YouTube videos, if you don't subscribe to my channel, I can't respond to you. I see people writing all this stuff, and I realize that I go to click on it, and there's no way I can reply, and I realize because you haven't subscribed. If you can't subscribe and you have a simple question to ask me, be sure to subscribe so I can answer you back. Also, another thing too, and please don't take this the wrong way, guys, all my fans out there, I've been getting a lot of images. People send me costumes like the Predator or the Guyver or some crazy helmets from a video game I've never seen before, and they say, hey Ted, I'm going to make this. How would I go about doing that? And I made videos and tutorials. Basically what I'm doing is I'm teaching you guys the techniques and the skills in you to do what you can with these techniques, but I'm not going to make each individual video for what particular costume you guys want to do. I'm not going to walk you through every step of everybody's own personal costume. I can't do it. Costume building is problem solving, and if you have a costume you want to build, that's your problem, and you can solve it. The more you build, the better you guys get at it, and you'll be able to figure it out. So that's what I'm asking you. And also, for all the people who built amazing costumes and sent me pictures of their finished pieces and showed me what they've done with my techniques, it's amazing, and it makes me light up. I love it. Thank you so much. That keeps reminding me why I do it. And also, for all you people out there, don't forget to subscribe. And also, if you want to shop for stuff, go through my Amazon link below, and anything you guys buy from me, and with no cost to you, I'll get a little kickback. Help me keep making these videos. So if you guys are new, watch me, and you can find me on Twitter at EvilTed40, and also have an Instagram account, and that's EvilTed_channel on Instagram. You also can get me on Facebook, EvilTedSmith.com. You also can contact me there. And if you guys first time also, another great video I'd like to show you is how to make a foam helmet. You guys can check that one out. And also, you notice I had some sanding sticks and techniques I did in this video. If you want to learn how to make those, you can check out Tools of the Trade video right here. So guys, thank you so much for watching, Catch you back next time right here on the Evil Ted channel.